They do anything for clout. Do anything for clout.
So I'm up late and I see the news from the WNBA that the illustrative clout chaser, Enes Kanter, decided to attend the Chicago Sky Indiana Fever game and wear a shirt that I suppose defines what a woman is. And then he goes to the side of the court where all the press is gathered, the photographers, and I guess starts yelling at Natasha Cloud and actually begins to approach her because, no one stopped him. And Tasha Cloud became irate and was basically like, pull up, nuck if you buck. There's a different code for different people. And of course, there's been a ton of fallout from that because people are rightfully angry. I mean, truly pissed on behalf of what this really means. This is a targeted attack on a sport that is dominated by women, mostly women of color, and a really good number of queer women. This is harassment. And it is a form of violence. There's no question. If you really think about it, what does it mean to be at work laboring at your job? Female athletes, WNBA players, their body is their currency. The basketball court is their job. That's their job site. There's this really intense game happening and you have someone who shows up and their sole reason is to agitate and to create headlines. And these players have zero protections at work. That's just what kept running through my mind. If this is allowed to happen, if sex toys are allowed to be thrown on the floor at multiple games because not enough is being done to prevent it, if men, mostly white men, are coming to these games with an intention to upset and harass players, to act like they're about to fight a player, a woman, this is just another form of sexual harassment at work. And it's not a new story. But what is new about it and what's so icky about it is that it's being aided and abetted at multiple levels. There isn't just one answer to why. There's a lot of answers. People keep saying, I'm seeing on threads, I'm seeing on Twitter, this is Sophie Cunningham's fault. She gets to carry the weight for the deluge of hatred and violence and anti-dehumanizing rhetoric that is coming out from people like Enes Kanter and Royce White and so forth. But what I think is that Sophie Cunningham is just a sentry, right? She's a red herring, if you will. She's someone who's part of a much larger, quote unquote, culture war, the term that people like to use, that's happening right now. But what this really is, in my opinion, is an attempt to remove civil, social, cultural, material, and economic rights from people. That's actually what it is if you really think about it. Because if you decide that trans people, trans women, gender non-conforming people, and non-binary people fall under that umbrella. So if you decide that they shouldn't be allowed to play in the NBA, that is an attempt to remove rights from them. And transness is an authentic identity and has been. It's not new. Orange is the New Black and Laverne Cox, that was the turning point in American culture. But it's not new. Transness has existed for centuries. And it's not something that was just made up by a group of queer academics or queer activists. This is something that's acknowledged by actual legislative bodies, nation states. And the United States is really regressive, as we can see now, especially with a very far right-wing lurch toward authoritarianism. The United States has decided to create an outright assault on people who are not cis. And this is an attempt, and as Kanter, the sex toys, this is an attempt in the public square to further infringe on the rights of women at their workplace, and an attempt to violently snatch back any of those rights that were fought for over the past 2-3 decades plus. People who cheer this on don't understand that in doing so, that any success that you have in deciding that trans people are banned from participating at any sport at any level is going to have an effect of removing rights from other people. And women, cis women, will be the next target, because then they will decide that they can litigate what it really means to be a woman. Because right now, Enes Kanter is wearing a shirt saying that it's biological female of sex. But the next thing that they're going to do is come after intersex people, which we have seen already happen with Semenya Caster, the South African woman. We've already seen these battles take place where they've decided that someone doesn't look enough like a female. And there are people who are intersex. There are people who have very rare genetic conditions. For example, you can be a cis woman and not have a womb. And that has nothing to do with your external appearance. You can be the most quote unquote feminine looking woman and not have a womb. And if a woman elects to have a hysterectomy, is she no longer a woman? These kinds of debates will be up for debate, and it will begin with trans rights. I personally don't try to convince people to not be hateful, because hateful people have decided in their own mind that they're rational, that they have a right to hate, they have an entitlement to hate, and it does something for them psychologically. So trying to convince people to not be hateful isn't my thing. My ministry is to try to get people to look around and start asking questions about what is happening and unfolding in our culture, and who benefits from it, and who is going to be harmed for it, and what are the impacts and implications on all of us, to see what is happening contemporaneously, and then also to use a long view and look at the past, and then of course try to envision a future, the positive, the negative, and the in-between. Learning more deeply about what is going on, and not just reading a tweet or a headline and stopping there, because really, what the is going on right now? So I don't believe that this is just about individuals who want clout. I'm not a fan of Offset, but he did eat with that one line, which was, "There's no cure for the IG disease." I don't believe there is. There are people who want clout and are mediocre and know that they can get clout and influence by being a far right asshole. Basically, a paid asshole. If you think about it, that's what a lot of people are. It's not just the executives who want ratings and clicks and views, because, even during the game, you could see the level that the defanging of any sort of open embrace of human rights and equality and justice, how deeply compromised that has become, because the announcer at the game said the most lame, whack, milquetoast shit that I have ever heard. It was literally like, media is dead.
And right before the break, this was the scene inside Wintrust Arena after Natasha Cloud got that bucket. She wanted her voice heard. We have talked about the conversations surrounding the W. That is Enes Kanter in the building today. And he has voiced how he's felt about the situation. Natasha Cloud voicing her opinion as well.
The media is so afraid and fearful to sound woke that they don't even sound human. I mean, I felt my opinion was her response was something an AI chatbot would say, someone who has no skin in the game. And you literally have skin in the game. There was just something so off about it. And it's not just the executives who want to allow people, continue to allow people who are hateful and cruel and nasty to show up to games and to cause a commotion and to take the attention away from the game, because they don't want to get fired and they don't want to get doxxed and harassed. It's not just the far right-wing Christian nationalists who want to remove Title IX and equal protection, the 14th Amendment, and recreate the United States in a very specific image of Christo-fascism, Christo-techno-fascism, and remove civil rights. And it's the entire ecosystem. It's the internet ecosystem where abusive and cruel and inhumane human beings gather to cleave dignity away from people in any way that they can. And that's why a person who spent $200 on a ticket to drive to Chicago and point and laugh and clap when a loser steps up to a woman like he's going to fight her, this is their dominion. This is their domain. Their domain is cruelty and inhumanity, and being an idiot, unfortunately, is the domain of a lot of people, especially in this country, because there is a psychic benefit to it. W.E.B. Du Bois. I want to end by saying I did predict this. Unfortunately, I did predict that it would get worse in a previous musing, because this has only just begun. The Caitlin Clark effect of misogynoir and hatred against queer people and damn near open white supremacy is going to get worse, because it hasn't even peaked yet. So to predict that it would get worse, it's not that hard, right? And after this stunt, that of course is emblazoned in every social media post and in all the headlines, other people who hate women and hate Black women and hate queer women, and especially hate Black queer women, who they see as the specter hanging over the head of the NBA, they're going to be figuring out what they can do to get their clout. Because if it's not a sex toy or a t-shirt, what can they do? The creativity is boundless. So unfortunately, until the players or someone with power and influence steps up and says enough is enough and forces the WNBA to act on behalf of their employees to protect them at work, this will continue apace. We are in an abuser economy. We're in a scammer economy. This is the era of the cruel, the nasty, the pathetic, the internally vacuous. This is their playground, dystopian, hyper-capitalistic playground. My immediate thought when I saw that clip was, I wonder if they're even going to ask any male athletes from any league their opinion on what's happening, on the harassment and the abuse, and if any male athlete would even bother to actually defend these women. Now, I did see that Kyle Kuzma tweeted something, and that surprised me, of course, but you know, he also hates, he's a Zoran Mamdani hater, right? So it's like, I don't know, maybe there is no benefit in asking them their opinion. But I'll say this, they do need protection. These women at work need protection. They need a social material investment. And that's stepping up and at the very least saying, hey, you're a loser to treat women this way, to threaten them, to loom over them, to leer at them at work. Because what you're doing isn't just in front of women at the workplace. It's in front of children, in front of other adults who are just there to have a break from reality. What they are doing is showing them that it isn't safe to be outside of the home. And see, that gets a little bit closer to what this actually might really be about, to ultimately take away one of the things that has shifted drastically for women and queer people in the past, let's say 50 years, which is the freedom of movement and the agency and autonomy to go where you want to go. Obviously, lots of restrictions on that, given that there is that threat of violence at almost all times, but still, it has changed dramatically. And the ultimate downside of this is it's going to make people who are already marginalized in a very dangerous place feel even less safe. Because say what you want about the WNBA, it had a reputation for feeling safe to people, for women and queer people. Maybe that's what's happening that we need to point our attention to, which is there is a desire and a concerted effort to remove the modicum of safety, of pleasure and joy that this league was actually known for. Besides being ignored, it was a place of pleasure. And now that's being removed. Now, I don't think it's going to work. You know, I'm not a pessimist. I think that things will get worse, but there will be pushback. There will be impacts, however, and the harm that is going to come as a result of there being no significant investment isn't worth it. It's not worth it. And it's not fair. Enes Kanter and Sophie Cunningham and the executives and these far right-wing legislators, they're ending the WNBA as we knew it to recreate something new in their image. And that image is terrifying. And that's my musing.